Murphy was 10 years younger when he sat in this studio all those years ago, from the Galway Hooker Brewery. Aidan, good morning to you.
Morning, Keith.
Hard to believe that Galway Hooker Brewery Company is 10 years old.
Yeah, I know, it is hard to believe. It's flown by, but it's been a great 10 years. The market has changed an awful lot since when we started.
But you were brave, no more than others now in Galway that started. You were brave to start when you started.
Yeah, it was a funny time. It was the height of the boom, 2006, but craft beer at the time wasn't actually doing that well. Like, you know, there were only 6 craft breweries in the whole country, and they were struggling. Craft beer was a concept that hadn't really come to Ireland, but, you know, so at the time we were considered kind of crazy to do it.
What was the feeling at home when you decided to do something like that?
I know, I have to say, you know, all my family were very supportive. And especially, you know, even though it was a kind of a novel concept, it was new. There were no breweries in Connacht at that time. I have to say that the feedback and the response we got from the trade, you know, in Galway, when we went to them with the idea, was extremely positive. So,
but I mean, you were up against the big guns then, and yeah. I don't know how many, you know, breweries there are now in the country, but there's an awful lot.
Yeah,
it's now a big business. But I mean, you were brave then, so you were.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, like, at the time there were only 6. I think there are 70 odd breweries now. I mean, I suppose in terms of being up against the big guns, you know, that hasn't changed. They're still there. But I think
they've even dabbled in.
They're making what we call crafty, inverted commas, beers. But yeah, so I suppose, you know, even the big breweries recognise now that people want something different, something with a bit more flavour. So you know, that's I suppose that's where we came from. That was our genesis to produce a natural full flavour beer.
Now you have the 4 core flavours, haven't you? That's what you.
Yeah, so we've 4 core beers. We have our Irish Pale Ale, which is the one we're probably best known for. We also have an Amber Lager, a Stout, and an India Pale Ale. So we also just launched a new limited edition beer on Saturday in the Roisin Dove, where we had our 10-year party. So that's a double IPA, 8.6% alcohol. So it's very strong.
That's nice. That's nearly as strong as a bottle of wine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not far off. So it's one to.
Is that the sipping one then?
That is definitely a sipping one.
You wouldn't come in from the bog having worked a hard day in the bog.
No. If you're thirsty, you kind of you put that one aside for later on.
Okay. Yeah, because that would be very strong, would it?
Oh, like you said, it's almost like a wine. So you know, you should you need to drink it like a wine. Really.
Yeah. So it's all about education, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's the one thing that really has changed in the 10 years. That 10 years ago, when we were presenting our product to people, they didn't really understand what we were trying to do. There was a lot of education from our end on what it is we were doing, but now people are really aware of the different styles of beer, all the different flavours, and are much more, you know, educated about not just what we do, but all styles of beer. So it's great. You know, there's so much more awareness.
And do you do much on export now, do you?
So I'd say somewhere between 5 and 10% of what we produce is exported. So we would export primarily to Europe, to say France and Denmark, Holland, countries like that. But we have exported to some, you know, unusual places like Taiwan and things like that. But yeah, it's a growing part of our business.
And I mean, because you've got the 4 core, I mean, you obviously have the recipe for those tightly kept secrets. So you have, but we were just talking off air. But I mean, you have to keep the quality up to consistently with every batch that you make.
Yeah, so that really is the big challenge in brewing, is to get that consistency to produce a beer that tastes the same batch from batch, week to week, year to year. And obviously, you know, it's an agricultural product, you know.
Yeast is, yeah.
Well, not so much yeast, but the hops and the barley, malted barley.
Yeah.
So you know, they will be different from year to year, season to season, depending on the weather, etc. So, you know, that is a challenge, you know, just as it is in any food business to get that.
It is, but the quality control measures are in place, you see, though, so it's constantly checked going through the process.
Yeah, so we do a lot of quality control. You know, it's a large part of our business. You know, sending it to the lab, testing it, making sure everything's within specs, and you know, if anything's going a little bit in the wrong direction, you need to make adjustments to make sure you bring it back in line.
And how quickly would you have to make those adjustments? Or would you have to? Is it that tightly monitored, Aidan? It is.
It is, yeah. I mean, every batch gets tested, and as I was saying to you off air, yeast is a living thing. It's a microorganism, and we reuse that yeast from batch to batch. So just like anywhere, we all change over time. So the kind of profile of the yeast can change a little bit over time. So
and how often can you use yeast like that?
So we usually use it about 6 or 7 times, and then we start with a fresh batch.
Is that living? Is it?
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's yeah.
And where do you get your yeast from? Do you need to try and source it?
Like I said, we reuse our own yeast, and then we would start with a kind of starter culture, and we'd propagate up.
Grow your own.
We do, yeah, from batch
to
batch.
It really is kind of, it's all encompassing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, most brewers would call it somewhere between art. It's a mix of art and science. So obviously in craft brewing, we would be more on the kind of craft. Obviously we consider it more craft, whereas the big industrial brewers are obviously more scientific. But it doesn't matter really what scale you're doing it at. You're somewhere in that.
But the smaller one is authentic.
Very much so. Obviously, we brew the beer in Galway. It's brewed in Ormore. It's locally owned. Local people working in the business. So Irish ingredients, all of that. Whereas some of the other, I suppose, bigger multinational beers mightn't have quite the same provenance. But that is what craft beer is all about.
And what's it like now that the baby is 10 years old? Are you worried about going to secondary school now? This communion, whatever. Yeah.
Well, so far so good, but who knows what the future holds?
Yeah. But and you have to change, of course. I mean, you have to change with the times as well. So the new one that you brought out, the double IPA, that's feeding a different market.
It is, yeah. And again, it's kind of, I suppose, it's indicative of how the market has changed. That kind of a beer, could never have been introduced to Ireland 10 years ago. But now people are, because those strong beers, particularly in the US, are very popular, and people are travelling and all of that. People are familiar with those kind of beers. So there is a market for it, and an interest in it. So.
Long may it continue.
Thank you.
Well, happy birthday to you. You don't look a day over 20. So the beer is definitely suiting you, so it is. A happy 10th birthday to you, and you had a good night Saturday night in the Ocean Dove.
We did, yes. We had a great night. So it was...
You're 2020'd up as well, so yes.
I am, of course, yes. Fingers crossed now. So we had our 10-year party in the Ocean Dove. That's where we launched the beer 10 years ago to the day. So it was great to get in and mark the occasion. And we had a band. So the local band, Converse All Stars, they were great. And a barbecue and some beers and cake and all that. It was great. We'd really enjoyed it.
All right, listen, happy birthday to you. Ed Murphy joining us from the Galway Hooker Brewery Company, indeed. Thank you indeed for joining us. Continued success to you and to all of your colleagues, indeed, and to the staff and everybody involved in it. Well done to you.
Thanks.
And thanks for joining us today on the programme. Now, if you do